everybody, my name is Michelle and in this video I'm going to do my September reading wrap up. So September was an okay reading month. It was definitely better than August, which wasn't the best because in August I had quite a massive reading slump. But in September it definitely got better. I won't say that I'm like back to my normal reading flow, but it's definitely going upwards. In total I finished 3 books and I also read a huge chunk of 2 other books, so I will also include those, not as finished but as currently reading. So overall it was definitely an okay reading month, and yeah, not the best ever but definitely not the worst ever. So to just start off with the books that I have finished, those were 3 books in the same series. If you have been keeping up with my reading vlogs then you probably know the series that I'm talking about, but it's of course the Seven Sisters series by Lucinda Riley. And I've told this premise so many times now, but the Seven Sisters series is about 6 adopted sisters. At the beginning of the series their father dies, their adoptive father dies, and he leaves all the sisters a letter with a clue to their true heritage, where they were born, where they come from, and in every single book it's about a different sister trying to follow that clue and see where they come from. So in August I read the first 3 books in the series, and in September I read the last 3 books in the series. Well, technically not the last because there's still a 7th book to be published, but the last that are currently published, I guess. So yeah, I will just say in general before I start with the individual reviews. Seven Sisters series, it's fun. It's fine, but it's not amazing. It's definitely one of those sort of summer book series, even though I didn't read it during the summer, although, you know, partly. But it's one of those fun, lighthearted series that you should not read if you're looking for something with a lot of depth. Because that's not in these books. There are definitely so many flaws, but at the same time, they're also enjoyable. I listened to the audiobooks with all of them and they were fine, even though every single one has a different narrator and of course some are better than others. But overall, perfectly fine series, and I will read the 7th book once it comes out, but also it's just not like there are lots of things that I just don't like about it that much, but at the same time I don't expect that much from these books. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. Let's just do like a rapid review of all the 3 individual books that I read this month. First of all, I have the Pearl Sister. This is about the 4th sister. It's about Cece. This one I actually liked a lot more than I had anticipated because beforehand I wasn't that excited about Cece. This book was actually a lot of fun, or at least very interesting. So yeah, overall, especially because I forgot to mention, all of these books have a historical story also woven into it. So it's modern day, present day, no, not present day, past, and it switches in between, and I really like the historical bit of this one. I usually prefer the historical bits because they're always a lot more interesting than the present day with the sisters, because I feel like, yeah, that's just the case. The Pearl Sister mostly takes place in Australia. It was fun, it was nice. Nothing much to tell apart from that. Then the next book was the Moon Sister, and this is about the sister named Tiggy. This one I think is definitely my least favorite out of all of them. This one just did not do it for me. It was not my vibe, it was not my thing. That's the thing with the Seven Sister books, like everyone is going to be interested in another sister, and for me Tiggy just really wasn't doing it. Still, I liked it fine, it was okay, it was again not the worst thing ever, and the historical bit was again interesting, but my least favorite out of all of the historical bits out of all of the books. And I guess just Tiggy's personality, like she's very sweet, but it's just not my kind of main character. I don't know, I didn't really connect with her. So this one I will classify as my least favorite out of the series, I guess. Then lastly is the Sun Sister, and this is about the final sister named Electra. At first I was very much intrigued with this one because it was a little bit different than the other ones, like she had a little bit of a different personality, but then it got a lot more boring and I was just, no. This is not what I wanted from this book. This is not what I was promised with Electra and her personality. Some things were very hard to believe. I mean, that's the case with all of the books in the series. Some things are very hard to believe and very easily solved. Like a lot of problems are so easily solved. But I did really enjoy the historical bit of this one, which partly takes place in Kenya and partly in New York. I really like that, so that's why this one is higher than the one of like before. But still, there were so many eye roll moments with this entire series. So prepare for that. There's definitely, if you want to read it, there's definitely a lot of things that are just so far-fetched. Yeah, that is just something that you should know before you start the series. But again, it was fine, it was okay, it was fun to listen to. And now I can finally close the Seven Sisters series chapter of my life, of my reading life anyway, until the final book comes out. So I've been listening to these books for the past 2 months. I'm done with them now. And by the way, I gave all of them around 3 stars. I feel like some of them are a bit lower, some of them are a bit higher. It's hard to rate them because it's just on a different level in my opinion. Then I have 2 books, as I mentioned before, that I'm currently reading, and I've read a big part of them during September. The first one is the Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly. This is a historical fiction, a World War II historical fiction. If you know me, you know that I love those books. I am crazy about World War II historical fiction, so that is why I decided to pick up this one. I actually got it from Leonie from the book Leo during like one of those book haul swaps. So she picked it out for me because she knows how much I love World War II historical fiction. Lilac Girls is about 3 different girls from different point of views during World War II. There's a Polish girl named Kasia who gets transported to Ravensbrück, which is an all-woman concentration camp. There's a German girl named Herta who is a doctor and yeah, who lives in Nazi Germany. And then there's a socialite named Caroline Faraday, and she is the real-life person that this book is based on. And she lives in New York and has again another perspective from the war. So first of all, with the positives so far. Of course I haven't finished it yet, but so far. So yeah, something positive is definitely that this is again a story that I didn't really know. I didn't really know about Ravensbrück, or I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. And anyway, I didn't know about that concentration camp and about certain things that were happening there. So in that way, it's really an eye-opener. I always love to learn more new things about history that I did not know, even when it's about World War II, which is a subject that I know quite a bit about, but this is something that I just didn't know yet. So it's really something, I think it's a very important story to be told. What I also like is that it's different point of views and that you can see different versions of experiencing World War II. What I especially like is the inclusion of Herta as a Nazi girl in Germany, because usually you always see stories from the hero's perspective or the good guy's perspective, so it's really nice to see something from the other side. I love it when point of views aren't always point of views that you're necessarily rooting for, but that's what makes this book so interesting, because it has so many dimensions in that way, and I really love that. But then unfortunately, so far I also have some critiques, and the biggest one is the writing style. The writing style in this book, it is a bit all over the place. I mentioned before in a reading vlog that the author tends to end every single chapter with a very weird cliffhanger. It ends in the middle of a scene, and then it isn't until the next chapter with that specific POV that it continues. And very often it continues right in the middle of the same scene, and you get the answer to the actual problem, or at least like the scene continues. And it's very weird because I don't mind some cliffhangers, I don't mind some tension building, but here it's definitely almost like one of those TV shows where it's like you want to know who gets voted out next, watch like until after the commercials. Very a cheap way of getting you to keep reading, because for me it doesn't work. I get very invested in a certain chapter and then it ends so abruptly, and then you have to read 2 other chapters from the other POVs that I just cannot really focus on. And then you get the next chapter, and usually it's not really that much of a cliffhanger, you just ended in the middle of a scene and it continues, and I'm like, why was it done that way? It really gets you out of the reading pace. And that's probably why I still haven't finished it yet, because this book is so weirdly written that it's really hard to read big chunks of it at a time. It really gets you out of it. And even with certain chapters on its own, in the beginning I thought they were very interesting, and later on they also get interesting, but the writing is just so weird sometimes. Like a short amount of time is very extensively detailed, and then there is a long amount of time that just flies by, but it's very hard to sort of keep track to, or track of, I guess. And then there's also the POV of Caroline in New York, who is included because she's like a real life character. But I'm now like this far in at page, let me see, what is it? 325, and so far she hasn't been relevant to the general story yet. So it's very hard to be invested in her story when she still hasn't done what apparently she is famous for having done. I cannot really say much more about that, but it still hasn't happened yet, so I'm just not that invested in her story. Her problems are like a lot less intense than some other problems that are going on, so yeah, overall it's very hard because I'm giving a full review and I haven't finished it yet, but anyway, you're getting a full review again in my October wrap up, so be prepared. So anyway, this book is very mixed for me so far. Like, there are very good things and there are some very annoying things, so I will finish it in October, but yeah, I don't know, it's hard. Then the final book of this video is also one that I'm currently reading, and that is the Radium Girls by Kate Moore. This is actually non-fiction. It tells the story of the girls who had to work in American factories back in the 1920s, where they had to work with radium paints. During this time, most people didn't really know about radium, and they did not know the very dangerous effect it had. So in these factories, the girls were told that radium paint was extremely harmless, there was nothing dangerous about it, and they actually had to like work with very tiny brushes, and they had to put them in their mouths to sort of point them. They called it lip pointing. So these girls for a long time ingested a lot of radium. And this book is about their stories, about how they, well, basically how radium is not good for you to ingest. And the lawsuits and the problems and everything that happened around it. It's just, wow. I vaguely knew about this, but I did not know that much about it. And this book is amazingly written. It is very intense. There are some quite graphic details about what is happening to these girls, so be prepared if you're like up to that. But the way it is written is so engaging, so easy to get through, even when it's a very difficult topic like this. I'm halfway through. I'm at page, let me see, 188. So yeah, I've read about half of it. The book takes a really personal approach to all of the girls, with their backstories, their lives. It's very, you can just see it right before you. It is intense and emotional, but also an amazing non-fiction book. If you want to dip your toes in non-fiction so far, I would definitely recommend this one. I mean, I haven't finished it yet, but I can sort of guess how it's going to end because it's history, and also I'm guessing that the rest of the writing and storytelling is going to be very much the same. So far it looks like this is going to be a 5-star read because it's one of the best non-fiction books I've ever read, at least so far. I still haven't finished it yet, but it's amazing and I can definitely recommend it if you want to read some non-fiction. It is amazing so far, and also I want to finish this one in October. And that was it for my September reading wrap up, and I guess also currently reading. Somehow, even when I'm currently reading, I just cannot help to give full book reviews, but you're going to get them again in October, but with more detail even, I guess. Who knows? Anyway, yeah. Pretty okay reading month, nothing too bad. But I hope October is going to be even better because we're now in full autumn mode. Like, it's raining as I speak and I see all the brown leaves and everything, and I just love it so much because autumn is amazing. Which I feel like is the general consensus on BookTube in any way. So yeah. I guess this was it pretty much for this video. I really hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, maybe go subscribe, give it a thumbs up, likes, share, comment, whatever. As always, I would really appreciate that. And then hopefully I will see you again very soon in one of my next videos. Bye!